Welcome back to Goalie Training Pro TV. Today's episode, I've got a tasty, healthy meal prep coming at you, so get your fork. You're gonna need it. Once upon a time, I trained an athlete who ate goldfish crackers for lunch. Not a lie, you know who you are. And that is not really the type of elite athlete nutrition we're looking for. After training hundreds of goaltenders, thousands of athletes, there are two main reasons why you tell me that you can't eat properly. Reason number one is that I don't know what to eat, which is sort of a lie. We'll get to that in a second. Reason number two is I don't have time to eat. So we're gonna fix both of those today. For starters, you do know what to eat. If I held up a hamburger and with fries and a grilled salmon fillet with some rice and vegetables, which should you eat? Which is the better choice? Which is the healthier option to fuel your performance? I know some of you are like, the hamburger, I'd eat the hamburger, but it's not the hamburger. If I held up a sub from the sub shop and I held up another plate that was a grilled chicken breast with quinoa and vegetables, again, you know which is the right option. I'm not saying which is the best tasting option in your opinion, but which is the more nutrient dense option. You know. So let's get into the kitchen and I'll show you exactly how to do it so that you've got a fantastic base to start from of healthy food. And it's gonna take away that I don't have time issue, because once we get finished this meal prep, you're gonna be able to put your meals together in less than 5 minutes. And it makes great grab and go. Let's hit the kitchen. It all boils down to choosing simple, healthy ingredients to build your base. So for today, we're going to be using quinoa, mushrooms, spinach, broccoli, sweet potatoes, and sweet peppers as our base. We'll also add in some seasoning, and we're going to throw some hummus on there to give it a little bit more flavor, but also to get some chickpeas in there for their nutrient value. Let's make the sweet potatoes first. And I sometimes cook them in my Instant Pot. Today I'm gonna roast them in the oven. And if you just do like a whole sweet potato roasted in the oven, it's gonna take quite a while. So I have a quick trick that's gonna get these sweet potatoes cooked up, you know, in about 20 minutes for you. Here. So now I'm just gonna slice the sweet potatoes into like little medallions. And you can make them as thick or as thin as you like. The thinner they are, the quicker they're going to cook. Sometimes if they're very, very thin and you overcook them a bit, they almost turn into sweet potato chips, which actually is really tasty, but not if that's not what you're looking for. So, you know, play around with it, see what suits you the best. But this is going to make them cook up really quick. And then because I don't really want to cut my fingers off, I'm going to cut the last bit in half. I really should, technically, I think, do the whole thing cut in half, but I like the big medallions. So if there are real chefs out there who are cringing right now, my apologies. So I'm gonna do, probably I'll just do 2 sweet potatoes because that's a pretty good amount, but it just depends how much you want. And we're not going to really add a whole bunch to these sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes taste delicious. Just the name itself, sweet potato. What could be better than that? But I am going to give you a little tip, especially if you're kind of like, I don't think I like sweet potatoes. Put a little bit of cinnamon. So just a light sprinkle of cinnamon. All over them like that. And I don't put oil or anything in this pan, just the cinnamon. And that's going to really complement their flavor. It's going to make that flavor pop. So I just kind of try to get them in a single layer as much as I can. I don't have to be precise. We're not Julia Child here. And then we're going to fire that in the oven. I preheated the oven to 350 degrees. So in you go. So those sweet potatoes are in the oven. I've set the timer for 10 minutes and then I'll flip them over for 10 minutes and let them go another 10 or 15 minutes depending on how they're looking. Now it's time to make the quinoa. And to make the quinoa, I'm going to use my trusty Instant Pot. If you're not familiar with the Instant Pot, it is basically an electric pressure cooker. And the old, like when I was a kid, there were pressure cookers, but it was basically like you're taking your life in your hands to use a pressure cooker because I think sometimes they would literally explode, which doesn't sound good. So, but these are safer and they do kind of speed up your cooking time. Now it's not a microwave oven, so the pressure lets it get hotter and lets the heat get into whatever you're cooking faster, I think, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. But it's still like I can't cook. If I cooked quinoa on the stovetop, it's going to take 15, 20 minutes, and I'm going to have to sort of stir it and keep an eye on the water and that kind of thing. With the Instant Pot, it's nice because I can just throw it in, put the lid on, boom, and I'm done and I'm good to go. So it's a pretty handy tool. But if you don't have one, you can just cook it on the stovetop. Makes no difference. Now, I know some of you are not fans of the quinoa, and I wasn't really a fan of the quinoa either. I tried it like when it first became a thing, and I was like, I don't get it. Like, I just don't like it. It kind of tasted bitter to me somehow. But then I learned a couple tricks. So the first trick I'm going to show you is we're going to saute the quinoa when we put it in, whether you're doing it on the stovetop or whether we're doing it in the Instant Pot. We're not going to add any water to the pot. We're going to add a little bit of oil, and then I'm going to saute that quinoa to start with until it just has a nice sort of like nutty smell. and then you're going to add in the water. Another little trick to get it tasting a bit better is to add a teeny bit of bouillon. Let me show you exactly what I use. I use what's called Better Than Bouillon. It looks like this. Better Than Bouillon. And I will just put in a teensy tiny bit. I'll show you how much I put in when I add the water because I don't want to add it to like the oil when I'm cooking it. The other thing to do, so I'm going to set this Instant Pot on saute, and I'm going to add just a little bit of olive oil to the bottom of the pot there. Then the other trick with quinoa that I think is a bit of a game changer is to rinse it. So rinse it before you use it. My bigger sieve is in the dishwasher, so I'm going to use the smaller one. So I just put it in a little sieve like that, as much as you want. Remember, it expands, so don't go crazy. And then I give it a little rinse under cool water. Don't ask me what that does, but it does seem to make it taste better, so. Let's turn on some lights. That's better. So just kind of drain that water. All the water doesn't have to come out because we're going to saute it, but just get out the big amounts. And then, so this has been preheating, and then we're going to pop it into the Instant Pot. I didn't really let it preheat enough because I usually like it when it goes psss when you put it in, but I don't think it changes the flavor. So we're going to let that get up to temperature. We're going to clean up as we go. While this is getting up to temperature, tell me your thoughts on the quinoa. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you meh about it? As I mentioned, I didn't hate it, but I was pretty meh about it until I learned a few tricks. So drop a comment below to tell me what you like about it or what little tricks you have that make it taste really good. I've even made a pumpkin pie quinoa porridge that was delicious. So there's lots of things you can do with it. The reason why would we eat quinoa? You could also eat, you know, make this with brown rice, or this could be lentils, or, you know, whatever you want the base to be. The thing about quinoa that's pretty cool is that cooked white or brown rice has about 4 or 5 grams of protein per cup cooked, whereas quinoa has about 8. So it's a little bit higher in protein. I tend to think we aren't as protein deficient as we like to believe we are. I'm not getting enough protein. In our part of the world, most of us get plenty of protein, but if you are trying to up your protein a little bit, and maybe especially if you don't eat meat, then, you know, that's a way you can sneak a little more protein into your diet. So I'm just smushing this around, not letting it stick. It doesn't really want to stick, but you can't have anything stuck to the bottom of the Instant Pot or else it's not going to work. The magic is not going to work. And I give it a smell. And when it has that little bit of like a roasty smell, you'll know what I mean when you smell it. Then it's like, okay, I think that's good to go. That's when I'll add the bouillon, and then I'll add the water. So this is how much bouillon I'll add. Just like that much. Like it's not even a teaspoon. This is a tablespoon. It's not even a teaspoon that I'll add, but it will just give it a little more flavor. You know, we don't want to add sauces, a whole bunch of sauces and gunk to our food. Well, later on I will for sure, but you know, we want to taste the food. But this just makes it taste a little bit richer. That's a vegetable bouillon. So I'm just going to give that a little stir. Now I'm going to get my water. But again, you could add any seasoning that you like. And I usually go just enough water to cover the quinoa. So I just want to look and see how I've done there. And that looks pretty good. So that's how much water I've put in. Just enough to cover the quinoa. So with the Instant Pot, we're gonna cook it for 1 minute. I usually set it for like 2 just because I'm like, I don't really know. We're gonna cook it for 1 minute, but then let it go for 10 minutes on a natural release, which means I don't come along and like manually release the steam. I let the steam and the pressure sit in there for 10 minutes and then I release it. So we're gonna go pressure cook. Again, I gotta go 2 because I can't believe that it cooks in 1 minute. So we'll go 2 minutes, and then it's gonna take like a couple minutes to get up to pressure. It'll cook for 1 minute, shut itself off, but then hold all the pressure inside. You'll see, it'll be delicious. You know what? I'm gonna go just a minute. I'm gonna trust it because sometimes I feel like I overcook it. Now it's time to check on the sweet potatoes. I guess I'm gonna need an oven mitt. This isn't like a cooking show where it's like a fake one. So I'll pull those out. Hey, they're looking pretty good. They're looking nice, starting to get a little bit cooked looking. And then I'm just going to flip them over. You don't have to be super precise. And actually, like putting that cinnamon on the one side, you can really see which ones didn't get flipped. So let me just flip those over. And then we're going to fire those back in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm interested to know how you feel about cooking. Do you enjoy cooking, or do you find that it's just like a pain in the butt for you? I actually really enjoy cooking. As long as I have time to do it, I'm not super keen on cleaning up, but again, if I have lots of time to do it, it's fine. So I'll usually do something like this on like a Sunday afternoon or on the weekend. Sometimes I'll do it on Tuesdays. I don't start work until 11 in the morning, so I'll often do it Tuesday morning before work. And it's just a really nice way to set up the week. I have a nostalgic feeling for cooking. My grandmother was Greek. She owned a restaurant. We used to cook together all the time when I'd go visit. We'd watch like Lydia on PBS, like before she was sort of like a famous chef. She had this show on PBS. We'd watch Julia Child all the time. So it always makes me feel really happy when I'm cooking. But you know, everybody's different. What's your experience? What are your feelings on doing the cookings? Drop a comment. You know what to do. You're not new here. So finally, I'm going to pan grill the mushrooms, broccoli, and the sweet pepper. And I'm gonna add to those, I'm gonna add a little bit of curry powder. Now again, if you're like, oh, I hate curry powder, that's okay. You don't have to add curry powder. Other great ingredients are smoked paprika. You can get some really nice just ready-made mixes, so you could get like a Southwest flavor. You could always add some smoked chipotle pepper. You know, find what works for you. Obviously a little salt and pepper goes a long way, but see what works for you. You might be able to hear this Instant Pot starting to do its thing. So let me just show you. It's building that pressure. It's starting to hiss and steam. It kind of sounds like a dragon or something, but so far so good. So there are all the veggies, and I'm just sauteing them in, or kind of grilling them in my cast iron skillet. Cast iron skillet is a little bit like a hobby, and so it takes, sometimes it takes a little bit of care and sort of learning how to use it, but once you get the hang of it, it's a really great tool. You might have noticed I didn't put any oil or butter or anything in here because I don't want to, like fry them. I just want to bring out more flavor. I find when I grill them, it adds more flavor. To me, it's just, I don't know, I always like sort of warmer food. So they taste better to me when I do it this way than when I eat it raw. If I'm making a salad or something, I like them raw. But if I'm making more of like a base for a meal, I like them just grilled. Now, you probably noticed too, those mushrooms. You're like, whoa, those are huge mushrooms. Those are some, like, I think they're oyster mushrooms, but I think they're called like king oyster mushrooms or something. Yeah, king oyster mushrooms. And I like all kinds of mushrooms, so I switch it up. But I really like this kind of mushroom because it has a little more of a meaty consistency. So it's really nice, adds a nice texture to your food. So really, I just let that sit. I'm gonna let them kind of get a little bit brown in spots, so like a little bit cooked brown, not rotten brown, and then pull it off, and I'll show you how we put it all together. So the sweet potatoes, that was another 12 minutes on the sweet potatoes, and so now I just kind of look for like a thicker slice. Let it cool down first. I give it the old bite test. Pretty good. I think I'd like it a little more, a little softer, a little more kind of caramelized, but tasty. And now it's time to release the pressure on the Instant Pot, which is always a bit of an adventure. So I always put a tea towel over top. Because, so I'm basically, this little lever is the steam lever. You can see just when I tap it, steam comes flying out, so you can burn the daylights out of yourself. So I always put a tea towel over it, because sometimes it'll spit a little, and then you just turn that with a spoon or something, not with your hand. Now, it was on natural release for 10 minutes, so there wasn't that much steam left in it. If I had just gone and released it as soon as it was done cooking, there would have been like a geyser of steam flipping out everywhere. And then you can see the quinoa is really nicely cooked. It's nice and fluffy, and it's super hands off, right? Then we give it a little taste. Tastes good. So I don't taste that and be like, oh, there's vegetable bouillon in here, but it does just have a little bit of seasoning. Tastes really nice. So that's all set. Let's go back to the vegetables and see where they're at. So they're looking really great. I like it when they get some of those little, you know, brown marks on them. Again, I think it adds nice flavor. Anywhere in there, I think we're good to go. So I'm going to turn off the stove. I'm going to take those off the oven. And then I'll check on my sweet potatoes again in about another minute. And then I'll show you what to do now that we have all these delicious ingredients. The sweet potatoes are out of the oven. They're right where I want them. And so what do we do now that we have all these really great ingredients ready to go? The answer is whatever the heck you want to do with it. For me, personally, it always starts with a ridiculously big bowl of spinach. And I just buy the organic washed spinach from the grocery store. But I'll put like that much, so like a third of a container, half of a container, I'll put that much spinach in there. If I was reheating this from the refrigerator, because this is meal prep, so we want this to be your lunch or your dinner, you know, for at least three, 4 meals during the week. So let's say I hadn't just prepared this all fresh, it had come out of the refrigerator. Then I would put in a couple scoops of quinoa on top of the spinach. And then probably I'd just start there. I'd put that in the microwave for 30 seconds. I'd pull it out. I'd put the sweet potato, I gotta turn off the oven. I'd put some sweet potatoes, some of the veggies in there, whatever else I was gonna put in. Grilled chicken, grilled steak, Beyond Meat, whatever I was gonna put in, and then probably zap it for another 30 to 60 seconds. But this is all hot, so really I just wanna, because again, I like my veggies cooked. And actually cooking spinach increases the antioxidant density of the spinach. Don't ask me how, but it does. So it's actually a good thing to cook your spinach. So I'm gonna fire that in for about 45 seconds to just get it nice and wilted down. Another little spinach fun fact, if you will, spinach is high in iron and calcium. And what helps with the iron absorption is adding a squeeze of lemon. So I'm gonna get a little lemon, give it a squeeze. I just put the plate over the bowl to keep the steam in so that it gets nice and steamed in there. That's what it looks like. I'm gonna give it a little squeeze of lemon so I can absorb all that yummy iron. Iron is an important mineral for helping oxygen bond to your red blood cells. So very important when we're playing sports. Then what I'm gonna do is add a couple scoops of quinoa, and it depends, right? I'm 52 and I'm trying to keep my girlish figure, so I'm not going to add too much quinoa. I know some of you are afraid of grains or afraid of carbs in general, and that is a really misguided idea. Unless, again, there's some special reason that, you know, if you're gluten intolerant or whatever, you know, that's a different thing altogether. But carbs are our primary source of energy as athletes. It's what our body wants to use as fuel. So to deny ourselves that fuel is kind of a little bit silly. I think there's a real difference between sort of healthier, nutrient-dense carbohydrates and garbage carbohydrates. So I think people sometimes confuse them and just think, oh my God, all those carbs are bad. Not bad, just you're probably not choosing the best ones. Then I'm gonna add in some of my sweet potatoes. So again, that's carb, healthy carbs. And the other thing I think some of you don't realize is how much protein is in plants. Plants have protein. So, you know, some people think, well, I don't want to eat that many vegetables because I need more protein. I need to eat meat. Well, there is protein in vegetables. When we look at the biggest animals in the world, so they would have high protein demand. eat vegetables. You know, they're vegetarian, like an elephant is a vegetarian. So eating vegetables is fine. I'm not saying you have to be vegan or vegetarian, or you decide for you, but you can get protein from your vegetables. And you have to make sure you're eating beans and legumes and, you know, getting all the essential amino acids. That's sort of the trickier thing with not eating meat. Then I'm going to add some of these grilled vegetables on top. So it looks like that. And then I want to give it a little bit of zip. I had grilled some tofu yesterday. Actually, I didn't grill it. I baked it in the oven. If you don't like the texture of tofu, slice it. So I just made little tofu sticks, and I put some herbs in there. I put a little bit of curry powder. Delicious. I put a little bit of curry powder, a bit of like a hot sauce, a little bit of salt and pepper in there. But I cooked it in the oven on a baking sheet, just like I did the sweet potatoes, almost exactly the same, 350 degrees. I let it go 10 or 15 minutes, flip it over 10 or 15 more minutes. It gets more of a meaty texture. It doesn't, well, and you have to sort of press it first to get the water out of it. So I just wrap it in a tea towel. I cut it in half, wrap it in a tea towel, put the cast iron skillet on top of it for 15 or 20 minutes just to get some of the extra moisture out. And then it has a much better texture. What I'm going to add to this is a tablespoon of hummus. And you can use whatever you want. You want to use hummus, you want to use tzatziki. You tend to eat a lot while you're cooking. Might explain why my yaya was 4'9" and 160 pounds. She cooked a lot. But then I'm going to add my secret ingredient. Super huge fan of the Frank's Red Hot. So then I'm going to crush this thing with some Red Hot. I do put on everything. It's delicious. And some of you may hate it, you may gross you out, and you might think, oh, why did you go do that? But I'm going to do it. I love it. Then the next step is the best step, because I just pretty much ding-dong it right down my gob. Every cooking show, you got to taste what you just cooked and say how delicious it is. But it is delicious, really good. Let me show you what it looks like, my masterpiece. Maybe we should get a little Frank's Red Hot sponsorship so we could do Frank's Red Hot everything on this podcast, YouTube channel. Now I can hear it already, because people like to look for reasons why they can't do things as sort of a excuse. Although you don't think it's an excuse, you think it's a legitimate reason. So some of you are gonna look at this and be like, I don't like spinach. It's like, that's fine. You don't have to have spinach. It could be kale, it could be zucchini, it could be cauliflower. If you just plain old don't like vegetables, you need to grow up, pull up your big girl or big boy pants, and start learning how to eat like a human being. If you're like 2 and you don't like Brussels sprouts, okay, you get the free pass. But once you're over like 14, 15 years old, just time to pull up your big pants and learn how to eat. If you want more protein, grill up some boneless, skinless chicken breasts or chicken thighs. Do up some flank steak. Do up some ground bison. Don't eat meat, then do up some Beyond Meat ground round or Beyond Meat burger. Find the flavors that you like. The beauty is, we're giving you the building blocks. So you've got these building blocks to make really healthy meals. Don't like hummus? That's fine. Put in some tzatziki, or put in some chickpeas or salsa or whatever flavors that you like. I'll store these ingredients separately. So I'll store the quinoa in a container, sweet potatoes in a container, and the grilled vegetables in a container. Because also what that gives me the freedom to do is, usually at least once a week we have pasta. So I can make up some nice pasta shells or whatever with some pesto, and then throw in some of the grilled vegetables and make a really nice meal using ingredients that are on hand. So all I literally have to do is, I use store-bought pesto, so boil the water, cook the pasta, add a tablespoon of store-bought pesto and some grilled vegetables, and boom, we're good to go. When in doubt, add more hummus and Frank's Red Hot. That's just the answer to everything. If you're still having trouble, because if you're used to eating kind of refined foods, it is a little hard to start eating actual food because it tastes a little bland, because our refined foods have all this stuff added to make it taste better for you, to sort of play with your pleasure centers in your brain. So it can taste a little bland sometimes when you're trying to make the switch. So another idea is to get some of your favorite salad dressing and add a little bit. Don't glom it on again and just hide the whole thing in creamy cucumber or whatever. But add a little bit of that to just, you know, help be like, okay, yeah, now this tastes good. And then over time, you'll get to start to appreciate the flavors of actual food. Sometimes I'll add pickled hot peppers or olives just to give it a little more zip and tang. Nutrition is simple. We like to make it hard and sound really complicated because, let's face it, for whatever reason, we've evolved so that our body wants a cheeseburger and French fries, not, you know, grilled vegetables and spinach and quinoa. But it is really, really simple. If you start just by eating actual food, like whole food that you mostly make yourself, that's a great start. Get enough water, eat some sort of fruit and vegetable every single day, which sounds really simple, like, oh, that, yeah. But when I look at do nutrition recalls from goalies I work with, most of them aren't getting a fruit and a vegetable every single day. Start limiting and then working your way towards eliminating some of those high calorie density, low nutrition density foods like pop, alcohol, store-bought muffins, energy bars, granola bars. Start working those things out of your eating plan. If you want more nutrition meals, here's a great pre-post game practice workout meal that I put up for you a little while ago. It is delicious. If you are intrigued by intermittent fasting, because again, we want to make things complicated. It's like, I think I probably need to do intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting has its pluses and minuses. If you want to hear my conversation with an actual registered dietitian, so someone who studied nutrition science in university, did all the internship exams to become a registered dietitian, then check out this video. And if you have your own favorite way to eat, or favorite method, keto, paleo, whatever it is, or if you have food sensitivities where, well, I can't eat broccoli, or I legitimately can't eat these things, it's okay. We don't all have to eat exactly the same way, but it's just about trying to make healthier choices, trying to make it simple, and be prepared so that you have healthy food to eat and you can put it together in no time at all. If you'd like me to do a review of your nutrition, so what I do is get goalies to do a 3-day nutrition recall, showing me every single thing you eat and drink, send it to me, and then I go through it step by step. That's one of the benefits of being in my online training programs. I don't send it to me if you're not in my program. If you're in one of my programs, then you either send it to me via our direct messaging for turning pro goalies, or you post it in our coaching group for game-winning goalie formula goalies, if you don't just like randomly email it to me. But I go through it and tell you what looks great, where we can make improvements, and then we kind of pick one big strategy that we're going to work on for, usually it's at least 2 to 3 weeks to sort of clean that up, and then we look at the next best thing so that you're really doing a good job of fueling your training so you feel great. So there's a link in the description if you want to find out the options for how we can work together, if you are really serious about becoming the best goalie that you can be. Because a lot of people think they are and say they are, but they're not really. So have that little conversation with yourself. Now is the time when you hit like, you subscribe. If you have subscribed already, you hit the bell so you find out about new videos before anyone else. It's also time to set your timer on your stopwatch for next Wednesday at noon, when I will be back with the next episode of Goalie Training Pro TV. See ya! It's really bad timing because now I have this delicious lunch, but it's only 10 o'clock in the morning and my lunch isn't for at least another hour, so